This is Miss Humbert here. Today we're going to be doing the second part of Notes 4. So today we're going to be talking about perfect squares. So this is going to be a special version of factoring when you get perfect square trinomials. So perfect square trinomials are when you factor and the factors end up being identical. So if you have two identical factors, you can write them as one factor squared. And we worked with that when we were multiplying out our binomials. Then you have to separate them and write out the two separate parentheses. It's the same kind of idea here. So let's take a look at some of these. So one of the most important parts about a lot of these problems is remembering to take out a greatest common factor. So between 16, 32, and 64, you can actually take out a greatest common factor. So you can take out a 16. Now we can't take out an x because there isn't an x in each term. So I'm dividing each of these by 16. When you divide by 16, you're left with x squared plus 2x plus 4. So that's your final answer for number 7 so far, your final answer so far, okay? So once you've taken out your greatest common factor, you need to try and factor it using the x. You remember doing this from the previous note video. So we need to figure out something that multiplies to 4 and adds to 2. Well, because it's a positive 4, this simply is not going to happen. So this is actually not factorable. So the x doesn't work. So our final answer is just our GCF version. So this is not a perfect square trinomial. In fact, it's not even a factorable trinomial. So let's take a look at number 8 now. See if we can get this to work out a little better for us. So for number 8, I can't take out a greatest common factor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 9 times 4. And that's going to give us 36. So we're multiplying to a negative 30 or positive 36 and adding to a negative 12. Since our product is positive, both of our signs need to be the same. Well, our sum is negative, so I'm going to put two negative symbols there, okay, because we need it for a negative sum. So to multiply to a negative 36 or positive 36 and add to a negative 12, we need 6 and 6. So now I'm going to use that to split up this negative 12y. So I have 9y squared, and then I'm going to put in the negative 6y's in their place. So now I am ready to factor by grouping. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make my two different groups. So I have a group here, and then I have a group here. So between 9 and 6, I can take out a 3, and I can also take a y out. So I'm dividing each of those by 3y, and I'm left with 3y minus 2. Now, there's a negative in the middle of the two groups, so I need to take out a negative greatest common factor. Between 6 and 4, I can take out a 2, and then I'm left with 3y minus 2 because I ended up taking out a negative 2. So now I notice that my leftovers are matching here, so I'm going to factor those out. And once I've gotten those factored out, I'm going to write what's left after that, which is 3y minus 2. So here I notice that the two parentheses are the same. So I can write them as one parenthesis squared. So this right here is my final answer for number 8. I wrote this, because they were the same, I wrote them as one parenthesis squared. Next, let's take a look at number 9. So for number 9, I need to first set up my x. So I'm multiplying to 144 and adding to a negative 24. Again, positive product, negative sum, so that means both of my signs are negative. So what multiplies to a positive 144 and adds to a negative 24? That's going to be negative 12 and negative 12. So I'm going to use that to split up that negative 24. So n squared stays the same, then I have negative 12n minus 12n plus 144. And now I'm ready to do my factoring by grouping. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make my two groups. So in the first group, I have n squared minus 12n. In the second group, negative 12n plus 144. Between n squared and 12n, you can divide out an n. And when you divide each of those by n, you're left with n minus 12. Again, this sign's negative, so I need to take out a negative greatest common factor. Between 12n and 144, I can take out a negative 12. So that's going to change all of those signs. So then I end up with n minus 12. And now I notice that my leftovers are matching. So I'm going to go ahead and factor out those leftovers. And once I've factored those out, I'm going to write what's left after that, which is n minus 12. So again, I notice I have the same parenthesis written twice. So I'm going to write it as one parenthesis and then that quantity squared. Okay, next, let's take a look at number 10. So for number 10, I see 50, 40, and 8. So I notice that they're all even. So I can actually take out a greatest common factor of 2. So I'm dividing everything by 2, and then I have 25g squared plus 20g plus 4 when I divide everything by 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set up my x. So I'm going to just ignore my little sister for the time being. She doesn't exist. I'm going to deal with her at the end. So we're multiplying to 100 and adding to 20. Positive product, positive sum, both my factors are, 20. Both my factors are positive. So we're going to use 10 and 10. So now I'm going to use that to split up my middle term there. So again, I'm ignoring my little sister for the time being. So I have 25g squared plus 10g plus 10g plus 4. So now I have 4 terms and I'm ready to factor by grouping. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to make our 2 groups. So when we make our 2 groups, 25g squared and 10g, and then 10g and 4. So between 25 and 10g, you can actually take out a 5 and a g. And then you're left with 5g plus 2. Between 10g and 4, you can take out a 2. And then you're left with 5g plus 2. So here, again, you notice that your leftovers are matching. So I can go ahead and write those out. So I have 5g plus 2. And then in my second parenthesis, again, I have 5g plus 2. So my leftovers are matching, so I can go ahead and write them as 1 parenthesis squared. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this next problem here for number 11. So for number 11, what we're going to do first of all is take out a greatest common factor. So 3, 66, and 48 are all divisible by 3. And then I can take a t out of each term. So I actually can't factor this until I take out a t because we can't do anything with t cubed. So then I end up having 3t squared plus 22t minus 48. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and set up my x. So I'm taking and I'm multiplying 48 times 3, which is 144. And it's going to be 144, a negative 144, multiplying to a positive 22. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to go ahead and finish up number 11 on your own. If you have questions, you should be watching this in class, so feel free to bring it on up to me. Otherwise, this will not be a perfect square trinomial. So see what you can get. See if you can get this to work to multiply to a positive 22. Let's take a look at number 12. So for number 12, again, you can take out a greatest common factor. So I can actually take out a 2. And then I'm left with 9y squared minus 24y plus 16. And then I can go ahead and set up my x. So again, I'm going to ignore my little sister. And I just realized on the previous problem, on number 10, I forgot about my little sister. Okay, so remember on number 10 that you need to actually bring your little sister on down to the bottom. I forgot about that. My little sister is crying right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at this one. I promise this time I won't forget. So now you're going to take 9 times 16, and that's going to give you 144. So you're multiplying to 144 and adding to a negative 24. So to do that, you need negative 12 and negative 12. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to factor by grouping. And I'm not going to forget my little sister this time, I swear. So then I have 9y squared, and then I have minus 12y plus 16. So I just split up that 24. And now I'm ready to factor by grouping. So between 9 and 12, I can take out a 3 and a y. And then I'm left with 3y minus 4. I'm going to take a negative out of the second group because there's a negative between the two groups. And I'm going to take out a negative 4. And then I have 3y minus 4. So then I checked and our leftovers are matching. So I can go ahead and I can factor those out. And then once I've factored those out, I'm going to write what's left after that, which is 3y minus 4. So again, I notice I have the same factors written twice. So then I'm going to write them as 1 factor squared. And because I'm a lot better this time, I'm going to remember that I need to bring my little sister down to the bottom and make sure it is a part of my final answer. So this concludes your note video. So you should have a completed note sheet now, and you can finish up the second part of that assignment. Thanks for listening.